everyone, my name is Emerald and I am your host of Behind the Movies. Behind the Movies seeks to understand the thought process of those who work behind the scenes, their struggles and their experiences. And today I have with me a wonderful guest, director of photography, Stikz Visuals. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Emerald. I'm quite honored to be here. Thank you.
And I'm honored to have you here. So how are you doing today?
Well, I'm fine. Our work is one very tedious thing, so we just try to be fine as much as possible. Generally.
And how did you start with film? How did you get into it?
How did I start with film? Well, I feel my journey in film is kind of cliche. A lot of people would probably share similar transitions. So for me, it started with church drama unit. It's funny, I started as an actor. I grew up in the northern part of Nigeria, in Plateau State, just to be precise, and there's this thing that is not so common with actors, which is the northern vibe. Someone who could fluently add the northern abuki thing, the accent and everything. So for me, I was quite good with that. I could do the Malam thing, infuse it with English and stuff. So I guess that was the catchy point, for my character. So I started acting from church, university days, the drama unit and all that. And after some time, it's funny because I was more into music. A lot of people tend to ask me why Stikz, what's the name Stikz? Well, a lot of people don't know it actually started with music. I was a drummer, so the name was Stikz. And for some reason, I enjoyed the name, and I just thought, why not be unique? Just carry this name, since people were already used to the name, So that's actually the origin of the name Stikz. So like I was saying, I started with music, playing drums, and later I went into sound, But I feel all these things really helped shape my decision in going into movies, film, and what have you, production in its entirety, I'm one person I have a very sharp ears for sound, And I feel film production itself is beyond the visuals, the acting and everything. Everything has to go hand in hand. The sound, music, selection and everything are those things that make these things come and create an impression. So, from sound, I came to Lagos in 2013. And that was more like where the whole journey started. I know maybe before now I had picked up a camera, just stand in front of the camera, move the camera, whether it's shaky, jerky, whatever, we just know we're recording, And there's always that excitement as teenagers then, that you're holding a camera, and things like that. But I'm not sure it was something I was passionate about. But when I came to Lagos, I joined this particular church, and also I joined the drama unit. I started acting, and I met this wonderful person, Sonny Peters. I think my whole journey of production, film, and what have you started with Sonny Peters. After drama, we go back to his house because he was doing skits then. I think they started the whole 15-second skits. On Instagram back then it was strictly 15 seconds. That's when the Chris Clowns and all those guys. So I think he identified my character as a very interesting one, and he brought us together. We were three then. myself, MC Simbal, and MC Reason. And we started this comedy series we called Brain Touch. It was quite hilarious, trust me. Sometimes I dig out these skits, I just watch them and I just laugh. I'm like, I can't believe I was this ridiculous. There were certain things that I did then that right now I would not.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun. I know even then I had opportunities to work with to pursue, a career path with my certificate and everything. By the way, I'm a graduate of political science and international relations. At some point, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, anyways. But so that aside, we pursued skits, we started skit and all that, But there's one thing with me. A lot of people have said that about me, and I'm just the kind of person that I hate it when people limit me to certain things. So most times when we go to shoot those skits, I look at the camera, after your take, you view what you've done to improve on your shot, and I'm like, this guy is creative. I like this shot. How did you do this? How did you do that? But back then, so the Peters was something that was quite common with the directors and DOPs then. Everybody likes to hide how they achieve their shots, how they do all these things. So he was always hiding it, And for some reason, I just felt like, I will always ask you, you always have one excuse to just push me away and not tell me about it. So I just told him, I said, I want to understand how a camera works, and I really want to know what the camera does and how you get to achieve all these things you do with the camera. I remember then, one of the persons I was shooting skits with told me then that I shouldn't bother learning about camera. Once I go into all those things like DPing or whatever, once I go into production, my acting would be affected. Maybe I wouldn't have the passion for acting anymore. But for me, I just felt, it's just added knowledge,
Right.
And I started. It's funny. My story might not be the whole film school and this and that, but my film school was YouTube. I think after praying, the next thing I do for the next 1 hour every morning was watch a tutorial on cameras for beginners, intermediates. I just kept, and the Google search engine, YouTube and everything. It's YouTube is a world on its own. Like there's actually nothing you don't get or see on YouTube. Just as lay as the question is, just type it, and you'll see references. So it was always a thing for me, Every morning I check, okay, I know how the ISO works, I know the whole story around shutter speed, I know the whole, what's it called now, aperture and the likes, And literally the camera works like the human eyes. It works with how light gets in, light comes out and everything. So it's just an interpretation of light and everything. So, with time, I just found out that this thing I keep watching, like I really enjoy watching all these tutorials. And once in a while, when I was set and I get the camera, maybe, okay, fine, I know where the ISO is, I go on the camera and look for it, toggle the ISO, shutter speed, and see those things I had watched in the tutorials and see how they play out practically, So with time, I think some people now notice that I always liked to hold the camera. So it was always a thing of joy if, for instance, we were on a shoot and it just needs an extra hand, The typical thing any DOP will tell you as a learner is to stay on the wide camera, So I just stand in front of it, not necessarily doing anything, just panning and tilting and all that, And wide cameras, most times you don't even need to pan or tilt, they are static establishment shots. So, but the joy of standing in front of that camera for the next 2 hours was something. It's really funny now, And I tell a lot of people that I feel all these things are easier nowadays. Everybody just be camera editor. But then for us, standing in front of it was leaping of joy and stuff like that. So with time, I started improving. I took up the challenge also. I told myself, man, I want to learn how to edit, And the whole thing started. I started with a wedding. Hope I'm not talking too much.
Oh, no. Feel free to talk as much as you want.
So I started with a wedding, actually. A celebrity wedding. That was Patrick Beauty's one of the top hairstylists. And I edited his after party. I showed it to Sonny Peters and it was wild. The truth is, everything I learned on Premiere Pro and the likes was also YouTube, I want to, for instance, cut a clip. The first thing, I just pick my phone, type, how do I cut a clip? You show me, I apply and stuff like that. Going back, I think the first experience I had for a proper production was Ebony Live, back then in Amen Estate. I can't remember the series now, but it was, I worked with Boss Elshin. And I know I worked as a camera assistant. It's funny that I was a camera assistant on that production and I did not know anything about what a camera assistant is supposed to do. I mean, I barely even knew the lenses. I just, on that production, I remember I just went on YouTube also and just, how do I identify a 50mm, 35mm prime lenses and the likes, and the easiest cheat to it was you will always see it written on the lens, 50mm. So once the director or DOP calls 50mm, you see me checking, trying to see where it's written, and it was fun. It was not fun because, trust me, it was stressful. At some points, I could remember asking myself, as a graduate, is this what I want to be doing? But the dynamics of production was quite fun. You see the actors, you see directors, you see a lot of scenarios play, and for me, I was learning. There were some parts where I see some actors acting particular roles and I'm like, if I acted this thing, I would be better, or all those things. And, well, the truth about production was it was never easy. But what sustains us is the fact that we're passionate about it and we personally decide to make it fun. Because I always have this opinion that if you're investing your time in something, why not do it well? Because you never know where it will go to, how far it can go. So that's basically how the whole production thing started for me. Moving from music to sound to acting skits, then also moving to the camera and
So you mentioned you seem to really like sound, or you seem to really like sound at that time. Why didn't you go into sound post-production?
Okay, so when I say sound then was more of the churchy kind of sound, concerts, music kind of sound, not necessarily production. And it was funny, probably I would have moved in that direction, but then I don't think we really had understanding of what sound was in production. For most of the films, I won't say generally in Nollywood, but for most of the films back then I had worked on, it was just record sound, download music and just apply. A lot of us didn't really understand that sound was a world on its own in filmmaking, sound design, sound recording, mixing and mastering. A lot of people don't even know those things exist in film. It's now that people are now paying attention. You see proper music producers working on scoring sound, designing sounds, from the scratch, playing tunes, going to get what they call the sounds now, go to the street, get ambient sound, actually making movie, making sound enjoyable in a movie. But back then, I mean, when you say sound, the only thing people understood is someone that is
Holding the
always
boom,
holding
right?
the boom. I wonder how these guys survive at night anyway, because that thing can be crazy, you know. So, and I don't think I want to be holding poles, you know. It's not something. And I mean, those guys are tall. I'm not so tall. How do I get to hold that pole? Probably I'll be in all the shots. You know? So it wasn't something I never really thought about it that way. But I think it's one of the things that actually knowing sound actually helped me, you know. Because back then when I worked with Sonny Peters, I remember he would always say, "Is this sound good?" And if anybody is having an opinion, I would say, "Go to Stikz," you know. And I'll listen to it and I'll say, no, this sound is a bit husky. I don't think the mics are working well. Or maybe lapels will be better. Maybe booms will be better. Maybe the lavellas will be better. You know, so it was something that was easy for me. You know, I know when it scores, sounds, in music, everything, it comes to me and I say, "What do you think about this thing?" You know, because so for me, having someone ask me and having someone know that this guy is quite, he has a nick or he has the ears for sound was one of the things that made me say, "Oh, okay, probably I could really function in production," you know. And so it's not necessarily something that I had to major in, but I feel it's only gave me some kind of leverage, you know, added to my CV. The fact that, like I could literally be on set now, and if something is wrong with sound, I could literally provide solutions to it. You know, a lot of sound guys will look at me and say, "Bros, how did you?" And I'm like, "Well, I just have the background for it, and I probably know how to cheat on these things." Yeah.
So, getting into the industry, are there any perhaps director of photography as well, people who were also cinematographers at the time, or were veterans at the time that you were getting into the industry? Were there people who you looked up to that you saw their work and were probably like, I want to emulate that?
For me, the major person that I particularly paid attention to, maybe because he was quite in my immediate environment, was Sonny Peters. You know, I always say something that Sonny Peters, beyond being a director, a DOP, a colorist, whatever, even though he will always argue that he's none of those, you know, I feel he's naturally gifted. Because trust me, what that guy does then, you know, even there were times we did short films with our phones, and I mean, if I show you, you wouldn't believe. There are times an entire movie, the lights we used was just phone touch and probably flashlights in the house. Like, you wouldn't believe it. So for me, the whole passion started with seeing Sonny Peters do some of these things, you know. So for me, the major person till date, the major person I always put there has always been Sonny Peters, because I feel, like I said, he is blessed. I feel there's been no limit to what he can achieve. Today you see him as a DOP, you see him probably his pictures looking a bit contrasty, you know, playing with selective light illuminations, high key lights and all that. Tomorrow he's coming and giving you dark pictures. Some other time you're having bright pictures. Some other time you're having very colorful setting. And the fact that he's able to achieve all those things with literally nothing, you know, is something that I've always marveled. But when I started opening my mind, I mean, the first people I started looking at were Indians. You know, those guys are something else. You know, regardless of the tricks, and those guys are something else. But if I'm going to come to Nigeria, of course, like I said, Sonny Peters. You know, it seems like the Peters are going to top it. After Sonny Peters, Clarence Peters. A lot of people don't know the film movie part of Clarence Peters. And Clarence Peters, like Sonny Peters, they share some similarities, and how it's basically how they achieve their lighting. I've seen a lot of BTS from Clarence Peters, and like I literally see the gadgets he used to achieve some of his pictures, and I'm like, really, you know. Some of some of us DPs, we always believe you don't bring the HMIs, you don't bring all the LEDs, the matte lights and everything.
Yeah.
But these guys literally can do crazy things with just sun guns, the smallest of LED lights and whatnot. But probably now, with some films I've watched, yeah, I must say I admire Cinema Official a lot. I admire him a lot. Cinema Official, Mr. Movies. You know, Mr. Movies started with music videos. That guy is fantastic. And who else? Maybe Barney.
Right.
Barney. I've met Barney once or twice. A very wonderful person. And it's good to see young people like that. Where I think the first day I met Barney, I didn't even know it was a DOP. You know, I was already talking like, established DOP. And I noticed he was just quiet and watching. No, but when I now went to browse and I found out that this guy is not, you know, his humility is something else. His humility is something else. So probably those are my guys per se. I also like, you see, I'm already listing a lot of people. I also like, what's his name now? David White.
Okay.
David White is one person I admire so much because theoretically he's very sound. He is very sound, you know, and of course he applies those things. David White is one person I feel hasn't gotten to, maybe producers have not really seen, but I think he still needs a lot of expressions for people to see that no, this guy David White is a fantastic DOP. Yeah.
But you said something when you were talking about Sonny Peters, about how he likes to play with lights and, you know, going from light to dark and all of that switching. These days, there's been like a very obvious trend of seeing really dark films. Like even if they're not dark stories, it's a dark film. Like the light just is not there. Now that could either be the fact that it could be an intentional thing, really. It could be like, the director was like play some sort of games with like the audience mind. It could be something like that, but it's odd. Sometimes all of that darkness seems really, really out of place, especially when the color doesn't make any sense. And in Nollywood as a whole, there has been like a lot of talk about us just misusing color when there's no need for a specific type of color. And there's this whole darkness thing that's also coming into play with Nollywood films as well. Like, what do you think is causing this as a whole? And is it right? Do you think that like maybe films have just reached like an era where they're just supposed to be dark? Like, does it really make any sense?
Wow. So, if I'm going to have an opinion on a topic like that, it's going to have a lot of bias because a lot of people will disagree with whatever I'm going to say now, and a lot of people will agree with it. But the truth about production and the outlook of any movie is that it's not solely dependent on the DOP. You know, personally, I feel if we put so much energy into pre-production as against production itself, you know, a lot of these things will be tamed, you know, because I don't think any DOP can just come and shoot a dark movie without the producer, the director, the arts director, the lights guy being in sync, you know. So if for instance you've written a script, you know, you should even describe the pictures.
Yes.
You know, if a scriptwriter is saying I'm seeing a very bright, emotional, I mean, not every emotion is dark, right?
Right.
Not every emotion is dark, you know, but people just feel if I want to drive emotion, I need to show some contrast, shadow, you know. But that's not true. There are sometimes that you want to see the emotions fully, like everything bright. You want to see all the highlights, everything, you know. So I feel it's beyond the DOPs. Even though sometimes I feel a lot of DOPs just want to put production value. And on this side of the world, I'm sorry to say, a lot of people feel production value is when you literally show that you shaped your light. You know, the shadow is dropping well, the highlights are dropping well.
Yes.
But I mean, who says I can't shoot a full cinema movie and everything is just high key? And that's the mood of the story. You know, so like I said, no director or DOP is going to work as an island. It has to do with everybody. And probably that's where skill comes to play. Everybody needs to be skilled in their various departments. You know, the climate in Nigerian movies has allowed for instance, the DOP might also be the colorist.
Right.
Might also be the editor. You know, so because we're trying to save a lot of funds, you know, we don't have adequate funding in films in Nigeria. Because whether you like it or not, there are some people that have the funds, but you know it's a circle.
Yes,
you know,
it's a call.
Like I always argue, I've seen young guys, teenagers with fantastic scripts. But the truth is, their scripts might never hit the screen. Because one, they don't have the name, two, they don't have the funding, they don't, I mean, even people that want to fund these films are people that want to exploit these people's ignorance. You know, so going back to film and mood of every film, I feel every film, like I said, from the scripting has a mood. You know, so if we have, for instance, a script conference, and as a director, who of course is in charge of everything that happens on set, if the director is saying, this is how I see this movie, I feel as a DOP, yes, you can have your opinion, but your opinion doesn't really exceed the pre-production. You know, we have our color palettes, we have everything themed. We know this is how this should be. It's not, but I feel this thing I'm going to say is going to be very controversial. I feel a lot of directors don't even have the technical know-how of what picture is.
Right.
You know, a lot of directors just leverage on the strength of the DOP. You know, just once they come, they plot. The guy will come in like this. When he comes, he slaps her. She will tumble through the chair. Then the camera will receive him here. And that is it. Okay. How about the picture? How do you want it? You know, and when he or she has plotted the whole thing, how it's going to happen, they go, typical of our directors, play with their phones, you know, and the light guy and DOP are setting up, and when the director comes, are we ready? And he sits on his monitor and they're rolling. And the director is not even concerned that, okay, is this light right?
Right.
Is this light right? Okay. Are we going to cut this scene because when you slap this person and the person is tumbling around over the couch, the light here is going to be dark? Do we need to light again? Because, I mean, not all of our production have the money for us to rig lights and make them permanent and stuff like that. Like, do these directors really break it down? Like I said, this is very controversial because a lot of people are going to probably not call me for jobs anyways. You know what I mean? But the truth has to be said, you know.
Yes.
I feel directors should do more.
Yes, I actually 101% agree with you. Like I remember being on this set, and so I worked as the assistant director on that set. The director was going to his car immediately after we finished shooting the scene. He goes to his room or to his car. He'll sit down and he's literally like having meetings. He's watching movies. This is immediately after a single scene. You've not done anything for the day. We've barely started work. And it was even more baffling when we have been probably like we had like something that delayed us for a long period of time, and you know that we have to speed run a lot of other things, but he would still just not be there. he would never ever be there. I mean, I've worked with several directors who have done this. I've been doing AD for a lot of jobs, and I've worked with several directors who've done this, and it's always so baffling to me that nobody actually calls out that behavior. But then at the end of the day, because the director does have at least he is one of the most powerful people in the set, so it makes it really hard to approach, especially where they're not as friendly. Like this director in particular was not the friendliest person. You couldn't there was a lot that you couldn't say. I couldn't like reach out and like really talk to him and be like, okay, so director, we need you to be more present, none of that. He wasn't going to have any of that, so I couldn't do it. So I 101% agree with what you're saying.
It's quite interesting. I think the director is the most sensitive person on any set, But I'm not really going to blame any director for whatever personality they put up, however they decide to handle their set and everything. But it boils down to something I always say, if the production is not worth it, why did you take it? I'm this kind of person that believes no matter how probably you've begged me to do a job, even if I'm doing it for free, if it's worth my time, then it's worth something. It's very funny. It's very funny that it's that job that did not pay you that actually announces you.
Right.
And somehow I just feel we as crew members, we need to put ourselves in the EP or producer's shoes. Yeah, so just to round up that particular question. So beyond picking mood, whether it's dark, whether it's high key or this or that, we're not solely going to leave it for DOP director or the lights guy. Sometimes you'll be surprised to know that people don't pay attention to who the colorist of the movie is. I've seen some of my works that colorists descended on, and I'm still asking myself, is this what I shot? Because some colorists will not even bother coloring from start. Some people will just copy and paste, put lots and everything just changes. And that's why if you see some of these big projects, even before they go on set, they already have a picture, they have a lot, they've graded, and everything has to look like this, even from production. So production itself is there are stages, pre-production is very important, production, post-production, so I feel if we put energy into managing all these aspects of production, things like that wouldn't really happen. And well, maybe the dark film now is a trend and everybody's just jumping on it and But like I said, we should understand the story.
Exactly.
What is the writer's mind? What is the thought process? What is he thinking of? Is this person someone will be in a very flashy house, we could see practical lights everywhere. We know that house is bright, and all of a sudden it's becoming dark, like someone who is living in a place that doesn't have light. So all this, even environment, should motivate lighting and picture.
So from your perspective as a director of photography, you as well as a lot of people on this that work on the set, even the editor as well, and post, you tend to spend a lot of time interacting with the actors in a sense that you get to watch them a lot. You get to see a lot really play out in the scene, and as a cinematographer, you're not just looking at it from, this is just performance. You're seeing it from what does the light look like? How does it reflect the emotions in the scene? What's the overall the mise scene? You're looking at production design. You're seeing the whole scene like really holistically. So as a cinematographer, what makes a great scene or a great film?
Every aspect of production actually makes an excellent production. Makeup, costuming. I think, for instance, we have a color theme or color palette. As a costumer or a stylist, there are some colors you shouldn't wear. so that we don't have some LGBTQ kind of themed color or everything just popping. And one of the films I really like when it comes to costuming and color theme is Queen of Catway. When you see that film, they were quite intentional. Even your makeup. I mean, someone is going to bed, someone is waking up,
and they have like a full face of makeup. Literally,
I understand some actors can be very difficult. Some actors are not comfortable with probably skin reactions they have or whatever is going on with their faces. But I mean, that's what makes you an actor. You picked up this job and stuff like that. And whether I like it or not, things like that happens in real life. So I just feel. Beyond crew, these actors also can actually help in making a very good production. Reading your script, understanding what the story is, working with the director. You're supposed to depict a character. You study about this someone with that kind of personality or character description. You understand how someone who is mentally unstable behaves. So that when you come on set, you embody it, and people begin to wonder, is this person really, So those are things that adds to production value. And that's why if you watch some Hollywood movies, you see comedians getting serious. I never knew someone like Jackie Chan and drive me emotional like he did in The Foreigner. Those dynamics are some of the things that adds value to film. So everybody just have to come and be ready to work, bring in your A game, regardless of whatever the person is paying you. If you're giving it your time, then it should be worth it.
Yeah. So you've worked on quite a number of documentaries apart from film. What would you say is the biggest difference in terms of how production is handled and the scenes are shot? What would you say is the biggest difference?
Wow, documentary is a whole world on its own, and even in documentary you have different types of documentary. You have the corporate ones, you have the true life documentaries, but the dynamics in documentary, it pushes you to be creative, because things you get to see when you're filming a documentary, they are spontaneous, they are on the go. There are things that probably you can't say cut action. You can't have several takes. I could literally see a child on his bicycle cycling, and I want to create something. So I have to be very proactive and very fast, And in some of those kind of documentaries, you don't have all the equipment, you don't have the lights, you don't necessarily, because of course, we're going to the slum, we're going to impossible places, we're going to wildernesses, different places, So in documentary, it's not necessarily a very controlled environment, That's where your fast thinking has to come in place. How creative, how can you get angles? Are you sharp? Can you spot angles? Can you spot creative angles? And a lot of people will not want to talk about this, but the money there is. And of course you get to explore, you get to travel. Documentary has made me travel a lot of places. I never envisaged I was going to travel, and it pushes you, insecurity is very predominant in Nigeria now, and places I've gone to are places that we really shouldn't be, but documentary, it's something that makes you inquisitive, and you really want to tell the story as it is. They are not epic. They might be epic, but they are not fictional. These are stories that are happening. These are people. So it's adventurous, very, very, very adventurous. It's not, although they are controlled documentaries where you can build sets, have your interviews and all that, and there are some that are not so controlled, So it just depends on how creative and how dynamic you are as a filmmaker.
So are there any words of encouragement that you'd like to give to new and upcoming filmmakers? Or new and upcoming cinematographers?
Okay, let me just give a general one for filmmakers as a whole. Probably a clarion call also. Please treat all your crew members as same. Because if your film is going to be successful, everybody needs to bring in their A game. You know, forget the era of because she's a makeup artist, I get to talk to her anyhow. No. You know, because everybody is a master at his own field. I cannot do makeup. I most definitely would not know how to style you. You know, I most definitely probably would not. Well, my skill says I should know how to light, but I probably wouldn't do it. So everybody, the runner, PA, you talk to them with respect, because I tell you, if one department is switched off, everything flops. One way or another, you will see it. So it's better when everybody is happy and everybody is ready to work with you. That's what makes you successful as a filmmaker. So I feel there should be a level playing ground. Everybody should be respected. Even crew members also, you need to respect everybody. Actors, you're coming on set, you don't just talk to people because you see them where they are. I mean, I've been on set with a costumier that I never knew was a millionaire, multi-millionaire, but she just enjoyed coming to set and styling people, you know. And when after the whole production, I went to her house and stuff like that, I was marveled, you know. So you don't just talk to people because of how you see them immediately. You don't know what they carry, what potential, and why they are doing what they are doing. You know, you don't look down on people. If, like I will always say, if everything is going to work well, all the departments have to be gone in together. You know, respect people. Just respect people. Regardless, we know people are different. People differ how they approach, how they talk and everything. But I feel if everybody is feeling among on a production set, it's going to be very productive. And for new cinematographers, don't be quick to call yourself a cinematographer. For me, it took several years. Not until 2 years ago, I didn't include it in my profile. Because a lot of camera operators think because you've shot 1 or 2 scenes, 1 or 2 films, automatically you're a cinematographer. Cinematography goes beyond just recording. Yeah, so there's always room for improvement. There's room to develop. Don't be scared to intern with people. You get to learn, go on sets, watch tutorials, you know, improve on your skill. Don't be too quick to want to be out there, you know. That shouldn't be the goal, you know. You have to be very passionate about it, because, I mean, when we started this whole thing, at the end, we really didn't put money at the beginning of it, but, you know, as we improved and stuff, people begin to pay value for what they know you have. So don't be too quick, you know, be willing to learn and open to learn. Yeah.
All right then, thank you so much. I absolutely appreciate being able to have you on this show, and I would love to have you again. You have offered so much insight into the industry and the struggles of working behind the scenes, and I really just hope that a lot of cinematographers can learn from your experience. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, guys. So join us same time, same station next week. All right. Bye.